My name is Andrew Schultz, and I'm pleased to be here today with Teresa Sanphy and Renee Hallinan regarding the new updates we have to the North Reading Food Pantry, which serves a lot of great people in town and has a lot of great volunteers who make it work. And first of all, Teresa and Renee, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Teresa, I'll start with you. If you can just give us a brief overview of what the North Reading Food Pantry does.
Well, we serve clients that are in need. It's pretty basic as that. Somebody shows up, they need food assistance, we're there to help.
Okay. How long has the North Reading Food Pantry been in business?
Our all-volunteer organization started in 1973, so it's been quite a long time.
And Renee, how many families do you think the food pantry serves?
Approximately 100.
And where are they all in North Reading, or are they all over?
No, mostly North Reading residents, but also families that are affiliated with the churches here in town.
Okay. And do you see all kinds of age groups, or is there a certain age group you see the most, or?
No, it's all different age groups, 20s, 30s, 50s, 60s.
Wow, that's impressive.
All over the place.
Yeah, it serves a lot of people who are really in need. Yeah. That's great for the community. I know the food pantry was in Town Hall and it's recently moved. Teresa, how did the move go from Town Hall to its current location?
Oh, the move was fantastic. We had so much help from the community. It was quick and easy, painless, and the new space is absolutely beautiful.
And Renee, where is the food pantry located now, and what's the difference between where it is now versus where it was as far as space, facilities?
Where it is now is 150 Haverhill Street, which is right next to the Union Congregational Church. It used to be located in a very small portion of the town hall, which they would allow us to utilize the gym on Mondays when we were open both day and evening. The difference is that we don't have to break down every time we open. We can leave all of our stuff up all the time. So it's quite convenient.
And Teresa, the new facility, I know that was originally just a storage barn for the church, wasn't it?
Correct. It was a building they used to call the Annex, and they would store Christmas decorations and things that they didn't need all the time. So it was a storage facility for the church. And
I know from my conversation with Reverend Hughes, it was a major undertaking. How much money was raised to build the new facility?
We raised over $200,000, and
wow.
People that have seen the building as the Annex and now see it as a food pantry, they say it's an amazing transformation.
Yeah, it basically was it wasn't torn down to the ground, but it basically was a total rebuild. I mean, yeah. You went from a barn to a functioning food. Renee, if you can tell me about some of the facilities that we have in there now that we didn't have before. I know there's walk-in refrigeration, walk-in freezer. What do you guys have there now that you didn't have at Town Hall?
We have an office where we are able to do client intake, and we can sit and have conversations in private. We have a lobby that is not being utilized completely right now because of COVID-19. We also have the walk-in freezer that you mentioned. We are handicapped accessible, which was a huge issue before. We have central air, which helped this summer.
Yeah. And I believe you have much more refrigeration now too, as far as you have a walk-in freezer, but you have much more refrigeration capacity too now, isn't it, in the new facility?
No, I believe the refrigeration is about the same.
Oh, okay, I'm mistaken there. But I know there was a walk-in freezer that enables the pantry to handle a lot more volume.
Yes, we only had one reach-in freezer at the previous location, and now we have a walk-in freezer that provides a lot more storage.
Wow. Teresa, how much bigger is the current facility as far as square footage versus the old one? Is it much larger?
It's just set up differently, so it's a lot more convenient and cohesive. Before, in the old pantry, we utilized the gym, but then you had to go up a few stairs to go to the area where clients could shop. So now it's kind of, if you want to call it one-stop shopping, everything is right there in one space.
Is there a loft area as well in the new food pantry?
Yes. We have the second floor is, we call it our storeroom. And we're able to take all the donations that we get and stage things upstairs so that we can constantly refill the product on the floor.
Yeah, it's, when I first went into the food pantry years ago in North Reading, it's like a grocery store. I mean, there's like the paper products, there's the canned goods, there's this, there's that. It really was like a little mini. I wish the public could see it. It's really remarkable, the depth and the variety of foods and sundries and supplies that are in there. Like I said, it's a mini grocery store. Would you guys like to speak to that at all? Renee, why don't you take that question?
Yes, whenever we have new clients come in, I'm always very eager to explain to them the mass amounts of food that they have available to them, and the amount of servings that you can provide your family, and like not to be shy, but cereals and oatmeals and dairy products and fresh fruits and vegetables and meats, and it is amazing, and cleaning products and stuff that you pay a lot of money for at the grocery store, and it would save a significant amount of money if they took advantage of it, and they're always amazed.
That's great. Teresa, what type of fresh foods are at the food pantry now? I know you've always had non-perishables.
Correct. So a few years ago, we formed an allegiance with the Greater Boston Food Bank. So every other week, the truck goes in. Currently, this past week, we had lettuce, celery, pears, apples. In addition to, we always have a selection of yogurts, cheese, eggs.
Wow. And you guys have a meat selection as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We try to provide the clients with probably at least 5 different selections, anything from fish sticks to whole chickens to ground beef to ground turkey. And we vary the selections every other week, so everybody that visits the pantry gets a chance to partake in the different varieties that we have to offer.
That's tremendous. Renee, how would, if somebody was in need, what are the qualifications for being able to get services through the North Reading Food Pantry?
They have to live in town, or they have to be affiliated with one of our churches. They fill out an application. There's no approval process. And they bring in proof of residence, either their license with their current address on there, or a utility bill that proves that they live here in town, or a church bulletin from one of the local churches if they're a member. And there's no other qualifications. We just provide you services or food immediately. We'll walk you through the entire process and let them know what's available to them, and then explain to them that they're allowed to shop every other week.
That's nice. And just to clarify for the folks watching this, I know when I was on the select board, I would get questions whether this was a church organization. It's not. It's an independent organization. The churches are involved and heavily volunteer in it, and it happens to be hosted at the church because they had a building that they were kind enough to retrofit for us. But you don't have to belong to a certain church to. No. You just have to be in need. Is basically. I just want to clarify that for folks watching. Yeah. Teresa, let's talk about I know the Union Congregational Church is hosting the food pantry. I know, and I'm a member of that church as well, and they just celebrated a 300th anniversary. Were they instrumental in helping to raise funds for this project as well?
Absolutely. They had a whole host of volunteers that took hold of the process, everything from fundraising to revamping our website, to getting the word out in terms of publicity. They were the main driver behind our outreach to the community.
Yeah, and I know there were a lot of members of the community that did unique things to raise money as well. I know my friend and a former select board member, Sean Delaney, shaved his head for charity on Facebook Live and raised over $2,000. So there was a lot of crazy stuff out there as well that raised a lot of money for a good cause. And I think that's important that, people came together as a community. And it was tough because, right when the real meat of the fundraising started, COVID hit. And there was a lot of people that, were hurting financially, but people still came together, raised money, and really helped those in need. And that's a good segue into COVID and how it's certainly affected our lives all over the place. But Renee, how has COVID affected the operations at the food pantry?
It pretty much ended the in-person shopping. Clients were no longer allowed to come inside. We had to maintain social distance, limit the amount of volunteers that we had in the buildings. But what it did was prove how determined the volunteers are at getting the food to the clients, because they came up with an online process where they were able to shop online. We were able to gather all their orders and then put the orders together on Sundays, and basically touch-free delivery, just putting it in the trunks of their car. They drove up and they picked up whatever it was that we had available to give to them.
That's great. That's really nice. So basically, the people could drive up, not leave their car, and get what they needed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And does the food pantry do any home deliveries for those individuals who are unable to, maybe because of disability or age or what have you, get out of their house?
Yes. There was an organization here in town that I believe came from the need through because of the COVID virus. ITT in this together, and
Yes.
they teamed up with the North Reading Food Pantry and delivered food to those who were unable to or at higher risk come out to get what they needed.
Those are great folks. And I believe if you're on Facebook, it's In This Together 01864, I think is the name of their page, if my memory is correct. But real fine group of folks that, that volunteered to help out people in need. Teresa, where do you see the food pantry going moving forward?
Oh, that's a fabulous question. Continuing to, I hate to say you want your business to grow, because that means that there's more people in need.
Right.
We just want to be there for the people that are struggling. We want people to be able to reach out to us, not feel any pressure or stigma. It's everybody has a challenge in their life at some point in time, and we want them to know that we're around and we're available to help as much as or as little as we can.
That's great. And Renee, if you could please, I know you mentioned it earlier, but if you could maybe speak a little further how this is truly a judgment-free zone. Nobody, it's confidential. Nobody knows, if you're getting services in food pantry, you're not on some public list. We don't want people to feel shame or embarrassed. I mean, it's there to help people. If you could maybe expound on that.
No information is ever left the food pantry. It's all confidential. We don't talk about who's getting services outside of the building, outside of the board meetings. If we have to discuss a client in need or something of that nature. But no, we keep everything completely confidential. And there is no judgment. We are there to provide you with what you need. We don't want any families in our community going to bed hungry. No,
that's important. And people lose sight of the fact, and we do live in an affluent suburb of Boston, but there are people even in our town who are in need. And I think it's important that we, as a community, help those who need the help the most. Because, there's a lot of us who have a lot in this town, and I think it's important that people give back to the people who don't have a lot. And you're going to get that in any town. So I think this really speaks to what you guys are doing. A couple of things during the fundraising process. I do want to publicly just thank both Nancy Parsons and Ellen Wiklansky. I worked with them extensively when I was still on the select board, coordinating them to come to our meetings and getting the word out there, and also Phil at NORCAM and Maureen at the transcript. Everybody did a great job of getting this news out there. And I think it was important through social media, through print media, through telecast through NORCAM, that it was important that the word got out there that we were doing this, because it's night and day as far as the facilities we have now versus what we had at Town Hall. And Teresa, the fact that you have your own facility now, what hours can you be open versus what you could be open at Town Hall? I know that's increased as well.
Yes, so right now we are open every Monday morning from 9:30 to 11, which is a slight shift from when we were at Town Hall. And then we are open on Monday evenings, the first and third Monday evenings of the month from 6:30 to 8. The beauty of having our own facility is we can change or flex those hours as need be. Whereas with the space that we had at Town Hall, we would have to check with Parks and Recs department if they had certain events going on. So we were slightly limited in that regard.
Right.
Right now, we've got a great relationship with the Union Congregational Church. We have a meeting twice a month with a liaison from the pantry to talk about the calendar, what's coming up, make sure we're being a good partner with Hilltop as well as the church. And everybody knows kind of what
And
events.
Hilltop, you're referring to as the nursery school, Hilltop Nursery School.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Hilltop Nursery.
Yep. No, I think that's great. It's just so much flexibility, and you're in a modern facility now where it really was kind of a, well, town hall's great, but it's not the most modern building in the world. I think was a fair statement. And I think it's, you got state-of-the-art facilities now, as far as you have a building that probably is not going to need a lot of work for a while because it's basically brand new. And I think that's tremendous. How have you been able to handle the ingress and egress out of there? Has that been any issues? Renee, you mentioned we're all handicapped accessible now.
Yes.
People have been able to get in there without any issues.
Yes.
Okay. No, I think that's important. And again, if I'd like to give you guys each an opportunity to speak to the community who raised that over $200,000, if you would like. Teresa, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, absolutely. We couldn't be where we are today without them, whether it was monetary donations, food donations. We had a lot of businesses in town step up. Give shout out to Big City Moving, American Flooring, Goddard Painting, the list goes on and on. Hopefully everybody saw the thank you in the transcript as of late. It was a half page or a full page ad thanking everybody that came to the need for the community. And it's been fabulous.
And I know China Cuisine was very generous as well. I want to make sure we mention them as well. Renee, a question for you. I noticed in the last maybe year or two, there's a nice fancy truck out there with the food pantry on it. Do you want to tell the folks at home where we got that and what that's all about?
If I'm not mistaken, and that was just as I was starting to volunteer at the food pantry, I believe it was an anonymous donation from a very generous person here in town to make life a lot easier, being able to go in and get pallets of food from the Greater Boston Food Bank, as opposed to sending in a pickup truck and having to hand load everything onto the bed of the truck. But I am not entirely sure he wants to be known.
No, and that shows you the community we have. There's a lot of people who gave donations and didn't want their name on it, and I know a lot of those people, and we're going to keep that private. But I think that reflects the kind of people we do have in our town. And Teresa, if you could explain the size of the truck and basically how it's shaped, and how to expand on what Renee said, how it enables us to get more product back to North Reading.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about the size of a 15-foot U-Haul truck that you would rent at a U-Haul location. It has a ramp. It's, as Renee had mentioned, it allows us to be able to go to a different dock at the Greater Boston Food Bank to receive our product. They have a hand truck that just loads the pallets on, and it cuts down the amount of waiting time that our volunteers have to wait at the Greater Boston Food Bank. The other thing that, and Ellen would be very proud if we mention the fact that the new facility also has a dumbwaiter that allows us to get a lot of our product from the first floor to the second floor. Yep. Saves a lot of our backs and knees. So that's been an incredible addition.
No, you're right. It looks like a U-Haul box truck, and it looks like a truck like a produce company would have, or a butcher would have, and it's very professional looking and came out really nice. Last question I have for you. First of all, thanks again for taking time out for being with me today. And the last question I have for both of you guys, again, somebody who's in need, who do they call? Where do they look up online? What do they do to get in touch with you guys? Go ahead, Teresa.
I didn't want to speak.
Anybody, if they're in need, they can reach out to us on our website, nrfoodpantry.org, or send us an email at nrfoodpantry@gmail.com. We also have voicemail at the food pantry, where we have somebody that volunteers that checks our messages on a daily basis. So if they can reach us that way.
Yeah, and I think that's great. Renee, anything you'd like to add about how people can contact?
No, email and the voicemail, but email's faster. The Gmail, North Reading Food Pantry at gmail.com. We all have access to that 24/7.
Yeah, and again, to the folks out there who may be in need, it's confidential. It's a judgment-free zone. It's there for people in need, and we want people to utilize the service and not be ashamed or afraid to call. That's what it's there for. And there's a number of people I know that have used it, and then their life has turned for the better, and they stop using it. So it's not something that once you use it, you're there forever. But we're there to help you out as long as you're in need. Teresa, Renee, again, thank you for being with us today. I think you're doing a great job over there. It's a great asset to the community for you and all the volunteers over at the food pantry. And I'd like to thank you for being here today, and let the community know we're here to help you if you're in need. And that wraps up our interview for today. Thank you very much.